Good morning from Switzerland and welcome to my presentation. I will share with you in the next few minutes my experience from Swiss urban green space planning. Urban green spaces are very important. They're important for recreation and human health, for biodiversity and habitat conservation, for natural hazard management and pollution control, and many other things. Urban green spaces are very diverse. They vary in size, ownership, aesthetics, ecological values, and accessibility. The topic of urban green spaces is receiving increasing attention in academia and practice, in urbanism and city management. There are many strategies for creating more urban nature. And this figure shows a few. On the illustrations, you see street trees, green roofs, green urban parks, and green facades. These are the most important ones, one can say. Urban green spaces are under pressure. There are big challenges for them. There are building activities going on. There's competition for uses. There's the private land ownership, which is a challenge. And there is sometimes challenging to acknowledge their value. Furthermore, planning processes for urban green spaces are extremely demanding. In the next few minutes, I would like to show you 3 examples from our research. The first one is on green infrastructure. It's about how to do strategic plans of urban regions address green infrastructure. What is green infrastructure? Green infrastructure is an umbrella term for a strategically planned and managed network of green areas, conservation sites, working lands, and water bodies capable of delivering a wide range of benefits for humans and ecosystems. We studied plans of 14 European urban regions and analyzed the plans, meaning the texts and the maps. The maps, as you can see in the icons on the screen. We studied which green infrastructure planning principles are followed in strategic plans, and we identified 5 major groups. That is, multifunctionality, connectivity, multi-scale, diversity, and identity. Many of these 5 criteria and sub-criteria are considered in detail in most of the plans, as indicated by the dark green bars in this figure. What I would like to highlight is the first 2 items. It's under multifunctionality, the social functions and the ecological functions. We found that out of the 14 plans, the social functions of green infrastructure is addressed in all the plans and ecological functions in most. This is an aspect that has to be kept in mind when planning and managing urban green spaces. Now we come to the second example. This is about the integration of biodiversity aspects in municipal land use plans. Land use plans regulate the building zones and other areas of the municipality. They describe how the plots can be used, how buildings can be built. They're binding to landowners, and therefore they're very important in the context of urban planning and management. Again, we have plan documents as PDFs and maps. The key question we looked at were which biodiversity conservation aspects are addressed in municipal land use plans, and what are the enabling and hindering factors to include biodiversity-friendly aspects in these plans. We focused on recently adopted plans in 6 municipalities and performed document analysis and interviews. We identified 7 categories of biodiversity-friendly standards in land use plans. These are: first, maintain and foster green spaces. Second, secure ecological quality of green spaces. Third, protect and foster trees and hedgerows. Fourth, protect and create water bodies. Fifth, minimize soil sealing. Sixth, minimize light pollution. And the last, foster animal-friendly constructions. You see that in most municipalities, planning addressed almost all of these 7 aspects. Only light pollution and animal-friendly constructions are not well addressed. Now we look at the 2 most important categories, about the area of green spaces and about the ecological quality of the green spaces. The first one is called maintain and foster green spaces. In this aspect is measured on one hand by indications on surroundings of buildings. And one of the tools to regulate that is the green area ratio, which defines the ratio of the building footprint versus the green area within a plot. There are other regulations that secure green areas in general, and there are regulations on establishing connectivity. However, we see that this is not well implemented in the 6 municipalities. The connectivity is really a thing which we need improvement. Next is the ecological quality of green spaces. That, of course, is very important because we can have green spaces, but they don't provide much quality, neither for humans nor for animals and insects, for example. So it's about the ecological quality of surroundings of buildings, and here the regulations in the municipal plans target the prohibition of planting of invasive species or the fostering of planting native and locally adapted plants. There's also regulations on transition zones to settlement edges and transition zones to water bodies, which are again much less frequent. I'm now coming to the 3rd example, and here we zoom in on the plot level. So we focus on a planning instrument called Planned Unit Development, or PUD. And we compare areas that have been developed with this specific instrument with plots that have been developed under conventional zoning. And our hypothesis is that areas that have been developed with the Planned Unit Development instrument are more green, have more tree cover than areas that have been developed with the conventional zoning. Because PUDs allow more flexibility, and they theoretically give the architect or the planner more opportunity to optimize building and green spaces. We looked at developments that have been built more than 20 years ago, so the green area could develop. When we do this assessment, that is important as we compare trees. However, despite our hypothesis, we found no significant differences between conventional zones and PUDs, as you can see in this figure. However, when we looked at the regulations on PUDs, we found interesting results. We grouped the area that have been developed with PUDs in the ones with high tree cover and the ones with low tree cover. And we then looked at the plans which allowed their development separately. And we saw interesting differences. We saw in the regulations that apply to plots where we see now a lot of tree area, we saw that there are more regulations on implementation time, more regulations in terms of precise terms of quality of green space, and also the regulations were more binding. So the quality of the regulations was really making a difference in how today this area, this development, this plot looks like, that it has more green cover, more trees, if the plan originally for it has had precise regulations. And this is very assuring. Of course, we hope that it is like that, but it's not always like that. I'm now coming to the conclusions, to the end of the presentation. On one hand, I would like to highlight the key strategies in land use planning and zoning. You see it on the right. And these are the 7 strategies which really need to be addressed in planning and regulations, which help to green our cities. Furthermore, I would like to highlight that our research has shown that planning has an impact, that a holistic approach is especially helpful, including strategic planning, land use planning, and zoning. I would like to highlight that tools to assess the effectiveness of planning regulations exist. And most important, I would like to highlight that ecological knowledge is needed in planning, in urban planning, and I hope that is inspiring to you to get engaged in this activity. Thank you for your attention.